Everybody ready?
Have you ever heard of Autodesk Synthesis, Lustre, or Autodesk Within? Mate, you're about to, because this video is going to be a somewhat simplified overview to every one of Autodesk's major apps. And to keep this video length as reasonable as I possibly can, which is going to be an impossible task, I'll be giving a gentlemanly nod, a tip of the cap to the ones that you probably haven't heard of, all done by someone who's, let's just say, been around the block a bit when it comes to the world of Autodesk. But if at any point during this video you do think to yourself, ooh, actually that one does look quite interesting, how much does that cost? I could possibly do with that one. I've put a handy little shortcut link into the video's description to the Autodesk store, which will take you over to their current running promotions and discounts. If you don't land on the right store for you, you can change that up at the top right hand side of the website, and then if you do decide to subscribe to an Autodesk product, they'll give me a small little finder's fee at zero cost to you, and thank you very much in advance for that. So after 40 years of operations, Autodesk have amassed a ginormous product portfolio. Mate, it's as diverse as the BBC interviewing the cast of the CW's Batwoman. It's now consisting of a broad mixture of both legacy homegrown tool sets that they've designed in-house, mixed up with an ever-growing collection of acquisitions. And that's after numerous product discontinuations, with that Autodesk graveyard filling up fast.
Hey Ted, what are you doing?
Oh, we're presenting our new prototype design to our customer, and I gotta decide which color to go with.
You know, Ted, with digital prototyping from Autodesk, you can use these great industrial design applications like Alias Studio and Showcase.
Where's that all end?
With a happy customer?
Who needs those? Who needs those?
But Autodesk now offer subscription-based design solutions that their end customers use to shape almost every possible facet of human civilization, from automotive design through to bridges, buildings, city planning, through to electrical engineering and medical equipment. Every walk of modern life is now in some way influenced, or can be, by this $4 billion design software giant. So if you've ever wondered what all these products are and what they do, then here's a rundown of almost everything that Autodesk have, in almost alphabetical order. But bear in mind, this has all been put together so that people who aren't familiar with the products will understand what they are and what they do. Not so that people who already use them can say, yes, you said the right words there, you got that right, I approve. And we are going to start our journey with Autodesk's three biggest products, not necessarily in alphabetical order, but they are what they call their industry collections. They're formerly called suites. But now these collections aren't applications as such, but they're what most companies will actually pay for and subscribe to for the most part. Think of these like the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. The idea being, and it is kind of just an idea, is to provide a collection of interoperable, interchangeable products to suit different people in different roles doing kind of different things on a per-person basis. And the first of the three collections is the Architecture, Engineering and Construction, or AEC collection, which boasts inside of it the likes of Revit, Civil 3D and AutoCAD as the main products bundled within. I'll describe what all these are later on in the video, but the AEC collection tends to be aimed at architectural companies, civil engineers, highway planners, surveyors, structural engineers, and all things construction. Then we've got the Product Design and Manufacturing collection, or PDMC, which is pitched into industrial engineering, manufacturing, higher-end product design and development businesses. It's a bit of a weak collection, but it's got the likes of Autodesk Inventor in there, it's got AutoCAD and Fusion 360, and then we've got Media and Entertainment, or M&E collection. This is for creative studios specializing in film and TV, design and visualization, VFX and games. Now this one is a bit light on products, but it holds both 3D Studio Max, Arnold and Maya amongst a few others. So those are the three main headlining title subscriptions from Autodesk. Now let's zip through all the individual apps, cloud services and products within them, and everything else that Autodesk have. Hold on to your 3D mouse, mate. This might take a while. But of course, there is 3ds Max itself, formerly known as 3D Studio or 3D Studio Max or 3ds Max upper and lowercase. This was an early acquisition for Autodesk 25 years ago, which they later aligned with their discrete media division a long time ago, which was also an acquisition, but then they later just branded it Autodesk. But 3ds Max today is a powerhouse of all the things CGI. It's a non-parametric based modeler for character design, game models and assets, visual effects and animations for TV commercials and Hollywood blockbusters, as well as more recently being used for architectural visualization, just due to how insanely powerful its rendering capabilities are. but it's evolved into a dynamic and versatile graphics tool pretty much for the masses. Even the Center for Disease Control extensively used 3ds Max in their fight against the coof and various other quite significant serious health threats. But if you've ever played the likes of World of Warcraft or watched Avatar, the Green Mile, the Transformers movies, even James Bond Die Another Day all the way back in 2002, well then you'll have bared witness to the magic of 3ds Max and the talented creators who wield it at some point in your life already. So although their media division is their lowest departmental source of revenue by far, it easily contains some of their most well-known, powerful and influential software the world over. Advanced Material Exchange is something you can't subscribe to and pay for. It actually comes as part of another product called Helius PFA, but it has its own marketing and branding, which makes it look like a product, so I guess it qualifies to be on this list. It's a bridging component between two other simulation products and basically exists to ensure the accurate mapping of fibers in plastics to avoid undesirable material behaviors in simulation studies. Advanced Steel is a dedicated 3D software solution used by structural engineers for parametric steel detailing, structural engineering, and fabrication. Advanced Steel is its own software but runs within an AutoCAD client. I'll obviously cover AutoCAD later, and it offers a ton of country and industry-specific connections and libraries such as beams, plates, bolts, and welds, and this was part of an Autodesk acquisition back in 2013. And then there's the Alias family, which is extensively used within the automotive industry. It's used for Class A servicing, or otherwise known as digital sculpting, of car bodywork and any other design workflows, to be honest, requiring aesthetically perfect finishing. And known companies to be using Alias are the likes of the Briggs Automotive Company, or BAC, with their bat-crap mental mono single-seater mentalist track car, Mazda, Nissan, and Tesla? Today they've got Alias Concept, which is the entry-level Alias product offering conceptual modeling tools, virtual reality integration, rendering, material management. No Class A tools in that one. And then they have Alias Surface, which introduces the Class A surfacing capabilities, or there's Alias Auto Studio, which basically has everything in it, including two other completely different products, surely making this a collection. The Autodesk Automotive Collection, surely? No? Okay. Autodesk Arnold, which was actually genuinely named after Arnold Schwarzenegger, it isn't a program as such, but more of a plugin, and it hooks into multiple other applications such as 3D Studio Max, Maya, Houdini, or Cinema 4D. And it's a super high-end, production-quality ray tracing rendering engine, and it began life as a CPU ray tracer, but more recently leverages NVIDIA's RTX technology for much more efficient GPU ray tracing and supports standalone and cluster/render farm style setups, with Arnold having been put to use on blockbuster productions such as Game of Thrones, Westworld, and The Mandalorian. But if that last guy had quite the epic name, well then this next guy comes with quite the epic mind-bending statistic, because it accounts for near 30% of Autodesk's entire annual revenue from one product. You betcha, it's AutoCAD. It's the program which predates me at 41 years old, and that almost every old school CAD nerd has a story to tell about the good old DOS and tablet days, pen plotters, the number of floppy disks that used to come on. But AutoCAD is essentially a drafting aid. It's a computer-aided design package for the personal computer, which is vanilla in nature, meaning that it can be used by anyone in any industry for anything, but its primary purpose ultimately is to generate 2D product or plan drawings for print, and is basically the reason why you don't see people hunched over paper and drawing boards anymore. Wizardry and hocus pocus such as undo, redo, copy, move objects, layers, dimensions, and text styles. All this stuff essentially revolutionized the entire drafting workflow. Ad hoc create and modify tasks just became trivial, along with the likes of digital drawing storage instead of drawings hanging in a filing cabinet. And the emergence of email as well for the ease of electronic or e-transmit caused AutoCAD to swiftly become the industry standard drafting tool the world over, and made the pencil drawing on a drawing board process completely obsolete. Now, due to the customizable and versatile nature of AutoCAD, Autodesk spied numerous opportunities over the years to capitalize on that by sprouting what they call verticals. I think they call them specialized tool sets now, but they're basically flavors of AutoCAD using the core program as the engine, but it's tuned for specific industries and professions, with the purpose being to provide an automated set of routines and features and object libraries that the user would have probably otherwise have drafted manually in the vanilla version of AutoCAD, therefore in theory saving them stacks of time. And the first of these specialized tool sets is AutoCAD Architecture. designed for the architectural industry, obviously. And like the rest of these verticals or tool sets, it has a standard library of parts, in this case for the architect, things like walls, windows and doors, automated routines for building plans, layouts, elevations and detailing. And then the same goes for the mechanical engineer. They have AutoCAD Mechanical. The electrical engineer has AutoCAD Electrical, which actually has quite a nice dynamic electromechanical link into Autodesk's flagship 3D mechanical modeling package Inventor, which is good for visualizing the wiring layouts you've done in AutoCAD Electrical in 3D space to check for clashes and fitment issues pre-build. Then there's AutoCAD Map 3D for geographical information systems or GIS data with a built-in connector to ArcGIS that provides cleanup tools for digitized maps with broken or duplicated data. There's AutoCAD MEP, which stands for Mechanical, Electrical and Plumbing, the three technical disciplines that define the systems that allow building interiors to basically be suitable for human use and occupancy. It does HVAC, plumbing, that kind of thing. The toolset AutoCAD Plant 3D leverages AutoCAD's 3D engine for piping and instrumentation diagrams, or P&IDs. Piping and plant engineers can use this for full isometric and parametric 3D plant design, with the final vertical being AutoCAD Raster Design. And I used this one myself back in the day, but back in the day was before Photoshop was as powerful and as affordable as it is now. But it's a powerful imaging cleanup engine for getting rid of legacy speckle and noise from old scanned mapping data that you've brought into AutoCAD. But it does have its uses in being able to do the likes of reverse engineer raster data into editable vector objects along with other stuff. But those are your primary AutoCAD versions or specialized toolsets. But of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention AutoCAD LT in a video like this, possibly one of Autodesk's most popular programs given its position and price. And whilst full grown-up AutoCAD will set you back a cool $2,000 for 12 months of drafting rental pleasure, AutoCAD LT is a mere $468 per year, depending on your currency and all that. And AutoCAD LT these days is actually a pretty good deal, mate. It's missing a ton of point features you'll find in the full version, but brass tacks, unless you're planning on doing 3D in AutoCAD and have got plans to write VBA or other scripting or customization into AutoCAD, then LT looks and feels absolutely identical to full AutoCAD for the bare bones essential job of computer-aided design. And as a bonus bit of information, if I was to ask you, what does the LT stand for in AutoCAD LT? It's probably not up for debate with a lot of people. It means light, AutoCAD Light. Well, I've had it confirmed from one of the highest possible sources within Autodesk that LT, in fact, does not stand for light. It doesn't stand for low technology or laptop or learning and training. In fact, the LT abbreviation in Autodesk products is in fact not an abbreviation. LT simply means LT. But as I'm mentioning everything, it's worth giving a shout out to AutoCAD for Mac, which, as I'm sure you can guess, is for Mac, sold as a separate subscription just for Mac users with its own marketing and official user forum. There's the AutoCAD mobile app as well as a web app, both come included with AutoCAD and LT subscriptions, but the mobile app can be subscribed to on its own. They offer up cloud-hosted drawing storage for accessing your drawing data on the go, on mobile or in a web browser. You can actually do some drafting to an extent on the mobile app using touch gestures, but it's a hideous experience, more for quick edits or mods on site. But wait, there's more AutoCAD. Yeah, it's one more. It's called AutoCAD OEM. It's not an end-user product, but you might come across its name. It's actually the developer API toolkit used to develop custom mods and frameworks on top of AutoCAD. And not quite alphabetical, but nearly. Next is Autodesk Assemble. It's a cloud service, part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud family, and it was a 2018 acquisition. Assemble is a model conditioning and BIM data management solution, with BIM standing for Building Information Model. And this helps construction professionals query and connect BIM data. It also has services for bid management, estimating, scheduling, site management, and finance. Staying in the Construction Cloud family, because next is something called BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro, because that's not getting old. This is cloud-based design collaboration and coordination software for reviewers and non-authoring contributors, which basically means external third parties, offering up stuff like clash detection on BIM models. The Pro upgrade, formerly named BIM 360 Design, does Revit, Civil 3D and Plant 3D cloud work sharing for AEC teams, which basically means allowing multiple people to work on the same model in the cloud in those applications. And it would appear we're still in the Construction Cloud family, because we're talking about Autodesk Build. This used to be called BIM 360, but they've taken that and their recent PlanGrid acquisition and combined them into this new product called Autodesk Build. Anyone previously on a BIM 360 subscription has actually been encouraged to renew onto this Autodesk Build cloud service. So yeah, it's a cloud-based pre-construction project management service connecting the office to the field, and it can store and show 3D and 2D model data with team sharing and collaboration across desktop and mobile platforms. Building Connected was a 2018 acquisition for Autodesk and is essentially a bid management and client qualification tool. It's got a couple of modules to it, with those being Trade Tap and Bid Board, with those being risk management and opportunity or lead tracking systems, and those are used for keeping everything like client communications, submittals, agreements, and everything else that goes on in the business read the bid management process, all centralized onto one platform instead of it all being fragmented over dozens or hundreds of people's inboxes and spreadsheets. And then we've got Autodesk Complete. This is a relatively new one to their portfolio of acquisitions, and Complete is a numerical code or NC post-processing and G-code simulation software for CNC machines, verifying toolpaths to ensure the machines run safely and efficiently. And Complete's gained a solid reputation by partnering with over 90% of the world's CAM companies, making them a reliable and trusted provider when it comes to error-free code for machine tools, helping to avoid costly mistakes, unexpected downtime, and slow first runs. And Complete's offered as either TruePath for 5-axis CNC or TurnMill, which is focused on Nakamura multitasking lathes. And there's Autodesk CFD, or Computational Fluid Dynamics. This is software used by engineers for intelligently predicting the behavior and the performance of liquids and gases. And contrary to easy-to-make assumptions based off of what you hear it being used for a lot on the TV, this isn't just the flow of air over objects or how liquids flow. It can also be used, for example, to regulate thermal properties within LED headlight clusters to see how heat radiated internally from a specific light source can affect the surrounding headlight array. Civil 3D is a civil engineering design and documentation solution that supports building information modeling workflows on civil infrastructure projects, including roads and highways, rail, site development, airports, and water. It helps streamline time-consuming tasks such as corridor design, intersections, site grading, and piping design using customizable design standards. It's got a proper strong feature set bringing point and cloud management, parametric bridge design and modeling, dedicated sanitary and storm drainage systems design, rail platform build. It's some serious kit, this. Oddly enough though, Civil 3D, although it's built within and runs upon the AutoCAD engine just like the previously described verticals or specialized toolsets, and it used to be called AutoCAD Civil 3D, this isn't actually classified as a specialized toolset, and Autodesk are quite strict about not letting it be referred to as AutoCAD Civil 3D. It's now just Civil 3D. Autodesk Design Review is a bit of a black sheep. It's a viewer used to open up Autodesk's DWF files mostly, which are Autodesk's sort of 2D and 3D versions of PDFs. But this file format failed to get any kind of widespread adoption over the years, even though the format's been around since Cat was a kitten. But Design Review integrates into the likes of Vault, for example, for previewing design files in session, and it can be also used as a redline markup tool, which had so much promise, but the end-to-end workflow for doing that was just never any good. There was always things it couldn't do, bugs, the manual steps you had to go through to get it to work. It was just often more hassle than what it was worth, and it was just easier to not use it. Ultimately, Design Review was cut back by Autodesk a long time ago, and it became what they call an evergreen product, meaning there was just no product year associated with it. It isn't discontinued, but it receives no development now and exists purely just to plug into their other products and retain that integration. And given its name in the industry Autodesk are in, this product really should have been a lot better than what it was. The Autodesk Desktop Connector is a locally installed client that connects your cloud storage to your local desktop. Think of this as like the Dropbox or the OneDrive app, I suppose. It creates like a local folder on your desktop and then syncs all of your cloud storage back and forth with that local folder and keeps the folders in sync. And now for everyone's favourite, the Autodesk Desktop App. This used to be called the Autodesk Application Manager, but it's been rebooted so many times to try and get it to be something decent. Think of this like the Adobe Creative Cloud desktop app, the idea being everything that you've rented or bought from Autodesk should be shown in the desktop app, and instead of having to download all your installers and service packs from the website and then keep them on a hard drive somewhere, you should just be able to click a button and then install them or stream the apps from Autodesk's website straight to your desktop, except it just doesn't work very well. It's full of bugs, it's full of problems, and it's just getting worse over time. And it is mind-bending that a company as big as Autodesk, with the talent that they have, are not capable of getting something as simple as this right. And it's getting worse over time. Like, for example, at the moment, the entire desktop app just does not function unless the end user accepts the license agreement for the desktop app, making this completely useless in large-scale engineering businesses. And also, when service packs are available and you want to install them, you've got to then click a second button. You've got to then click install on a second box before the update will then install, which is just totally pointless. It's absolutely pointless. And just to show how much Autodesk really don't actually care about this app, or there's no development at all behind it, about 4 months ago, Autodesk went through a complete corporate rebrand where they updated their logo, or that amputated leg looking thing, and they're really strict about their branding. And this desktop app 4 months later still has the old Autodesk branding in it, which is, it's really telling that old logo is still in this app. Right, I'm going to have to blast through these far quicker than I have been. Autodesk Docs is the common cloud-based data environment used by the Autodesk Construction Cloud Platform. It acts as the single source of truth across the project lifecycle, opening up document review and approval workflows. Autodesk Drive is just a bog standard cloud storage area given to all users using Autodesk services. You get around 25 gig of storage space, and to a very basic extent you can share files and folders with others, as well as view CAD files in there using the Autodesk Cloud Viewer. Very, very similar to the likes of OneDrive and Dropbox. Autodesk A360 has absolutely nothing to do with Autodesk Drive. It's proper confusing, man. Because this is still sort of cloud storage, whereas Drive is basic drag and drop file dumping. A360's got a web interface which lets you create sorted projects, invite people into them, store files in there which don't appear in your Drive area, so God knows where they even go. But cards on the table, mate. I thought this area, this A360 stuff, was completely defunct now and completely binned in favour of pushing people over into using Fusion Teams, which uses literally exactly the same interface, but apparently not, because it's right there. DWG Trueview, which is available from Autodesk's website for free for download, is basically a completely gutted out but still way too overly bloated AutoCAD client that acts primarily as a viewer for AutoCAD's DWG file format. Autodesk Fabrication consists of SMEP, CAD, MEP and CAM duct. It shares a lot of similarities, obviously, with AutoCAD MEP, and they all also run within an AutoCAD client, although for these ones you do have to bring your own AutoCAD license, which is very odd. The fabrication products are generally considered to be more specialised than AutoCAD MEP, with a valuable Revit integration link. Factory Design Utilities is an integration for Autodesk Inventor which ties in the likes of point cloud data with various 2D assets and models from multiple CAD sources to visualize and simulate a large-scale factory layout, a production line, or a shop floor layout. FBX Review is a free review and viewer tool for, FBX files that allows the playback of embedded animations and the toggling of light sources that are inside the FBX files, but it also supports other file types, the likes of OBJ, C3D, and 3ds files. FeatureCAM is another one of Autodesk's multiple CNC machine software products, with the intended purpose being safer and more efficient tooling. FeatureCAM has 3D toolpath simulations, feature recognition, support for a massive variety of machine types, whilst having its own standalone client as well as being sold as an add-on to Autodesk's Fusion 360. FeatureCAM also brings an app called Autodesk Part Maker, which pioneered the field in the early days for CAM software for Swiss-type lathes, amongst a few other things. At the heart of Part Maker are a couple of patented technologies, one of those being called Divide and Conquer, as they call it, which is just f***ing biblical, mate, and I tip my cap to that. It basically breaks down complex machine parts into simpler operations and lets you view the part in the same way that the machine sees it, and this just makes programming the part, or any parts with a number of turns, a lot easier. Flame is a video compositing and visual effects tool, and with it joins Flame Assist, Flare, and Lustre. Compositors and VFX artists use these tools to assemble live action footage, geometry, lights, and cameras all into a final polished sequence. For example, mixing in 3D assets and artificial light sources with live action video footage for the likes of TV commercials or movies, with Lustre being video-based color grading software with deep links back into the Flame family and timeline sequences for interoperability workflows. And to my knowledge, this is the only Autodesk software that doesn't actually have a native Windows version, with Flame, Flare and Lustre only working on macOS and specified Linux-based systems. Autodesk Forge. Right, to some, this is something you'll never need to know about, probably won't even ever hear about, but to others, their entire world revolves around this. Forge is Autodesk's relatively new cloud-based developer framework of APIs that lets programmers or coders, Autodesk partners and developer networks, they create innovative solutions that automate manual tasks using the Forge APIs. You can create web apps on the Forge framework. It's going to be the central code base moving forward for all of Autodesk solutions. And if you want to get involved in custom solutions for Autodesk software, then Forge is absolutely where you want to be headed. And I assume this is probably the reason why Dynamo was ultimately shut down. Formit and Formit Pro are outrageously powerful conceptual architectural modelers, letting architects roughly knock up ideas using quick tools with easy links out of the software into their primary design tools. Regular Formit is free to use and runs in a web browser and on mobile platforms, with the Pro version offering up tools such as the ability to see how much sun your building will take in over the day with the solar analysis checker. And only a small matter next of Fusion 360, Autodesk's blue-eyed boy, the jewel in its crown, the product that's probably received more development over the last several years than any other product in its portfolio. It's currently headed up and led by the legend that is Stephen Hoopdog Hooper.
Expert elite Neil Cross, we've delivered a set of performance enhancements on par with what you'd expect from a multi-generational CPU upgrade.
Who, whilst at the helm, has guided Fusion 360 from what it was at the very start, which was a pokey little plugin, to now being a fully matured design, engineering, electronics and manufacturing solution within a single relatively affordable offering. Fusion 360 is a CAD modeler at its core, and it uses a local installed desktop client, but all of the data is stored on cloud servers, which is kind of its thing. But it also is kind of its Achilles heel at the same time for some. But following said rapid development, it now has Nastran-based simulation, both local and cloud-hosted. It's got ray tracing, again both local and cloud-hosted. Full CNC support to a very extensive level, additive manufacturing, the Eagle PCB design is now wrapped up in here as well. It's got cloud compute generative design technology, which comes up with design options that humans just basically could never do in their lifetimes. It's got collaborative doc management, and all of this is free for personal, hobbyists, startups and education. There are increasingly confusing to navigate similarities between Fusion 360 and another product that Autodesk have in its portfolio, but I will address that as and when I get to that one. Fusion Team is a cloud-based collaborative area for Fusion 360, which supports version and revision control. It's got a built-in web viewer that supports almost all CAD data. Data is stored within a user's team account, and then they can invite third parties in to view that data or share the data externally using Autodesk's cloud viewing technology. Fusion 360 Manage, formerly known as PLM 360, or Fusion Lifecycle as it was, has absolutely nothing in common whatsoever with Fusion 360 and shares no history or heritage at all with it. It's basically just riding on trending name, but it's a cloud-based product lifecycle management system that Autodesk have been trying to push for a long time now. But Fusion 360 Manage can be used by a company to manage their product data, quality management and change control with custom and flexible working options. And next up we've got Helius PFA and Helius Composite. These are elite software solutions designed to simulate the structural behavior of advanced plastic and composite materials, and they're used in settings such as the rigorous materials testing that you hear often done within the likes of Formula One, the aerospace industry and various other consumer goods. Woven materials pose unique challenges, like the likes of carbon fiber, due to the layout of the structural fibers within them, and Helius helps explore new design concepts, simulates and identifies potential material failures with Helius PFA, which stands for Progressive Failure Analysis. This helps out with things like damage initiation, damage propagation and ultimate failure. Autodesk Infraworks is outrageously powerful conceptual design software that civil engineers and surveyors made from 30 odd years ago couldn't even have dreamed up, and if you were to pull them out of retirement and showed them this now, they'd probably have a coronary and collapse right in front of you on the spot. This takes real world mapping data, drone imagery and point cloud data to create concept site layouts, and then can link into ArcGIS to pull in things like underground sewage lines to let the designers make informed decisions without relying on manual data imports that could be inaccurate or out of date. Ultimately, it designs and simulates preliminary site design in context of the real world before anything has actually happened. InfoWater Pro, InfoWorks WS Pro, Info360 Insight, Info360 Asset, InfoWorks ICM, and Info Drainage are a result of one of, if not Autodesk's biggest ever acquisitions of $1 billion last year of water infrastructure software company Innovise. The Innovise suite, which I've no doubt will be shuffled and chopped around at some point in the future, is a proper hardcore water network management solution with the likes of hydraulic modeling, firefighting optimization, asset management, drainage design, and emergency flood planning predictions and mitigation simulations. This shit is f***ing hardcore, and little wonder it cost them a cool $1 billion to buy out. Subscribers to my channel might have heard of this next one and come across it. It's something like Autodesk Inventor, something like that. But I once heard someone call this the
AutoCAD for mechanical engineers,
which made my brain itch and caused me to start working on this video with immediate effect. AutoCAD Mechanical is the AutoCAD for mechanical engineers. You see, with AutoCAD, you essentially reproduce an outline of your design using lines, arcs, circles, and rectangles until it looks like the thing. With Inventor, you physically model and engineer the thing. Inventor is an engineer's tool used mostly in medium to large engineering and heavy industrial machinery. It supports part modeling, assembly design, motion simulation, stress analysis, integrated design automation for stuff like bolted connections, framework, springs, gears, shafts. It'll give you product weights, center of gravity, bills of materials for your assemblies, clash detection, tolerance analysis, sheet metal design, you name it. And at the risk of sparking a "my dad's harder than your dad" war, Inventor's more of a competitor with SolidWorks than anything else, and competes in a similar market to that. But what about Fusion 360? That's the age-old question. What's the difference? You see, Autodesk Inventor and Fusion 360 appear to be confusingly similar. So what's the deal? Well, it's a very long story, far too long for this already very long video. We discussed some of this in this interview with Hoopdog and Coopdog, but essentially Inventor is a fully matured, completely on-premise, highly scalable engineering tool capable of handling insanely large data sets and is preferable in larger team collaborative environments, whereas Fusion 360 is more geared towards makers. It's got better direct manufacturing translators. Data can only be saved into cloud servers, which pretty much makes it a no-go for most larger corporate clients. And it's got more of a younger, fresher feel to it, with an easier learning curve to get on board with. It isn't as strong as Inventor with handling larger team-based concurrent collaboration on large data sets, so Inventor tends to be for the medium to larger matured engineering businesses, whereas Fusion 360 fits into smaller businesses and machine shops. Although, like I say, they're converging closer together with each Fusion update. Alright, a couple of Inventor-specific apps, which are annoyingly and conveniently only available if you have the product design and manufacturing collection, because reasons. And the first is Inventor CAM, which enables Inventor to interface with CNC machines. Yeah, without this, Inventor can't do that, and you need to subscribe to the entire bundle collection to get that. Same goes with Inventor Nastran. This stands for NASA Structural Analysis, which is where it originally came from. It's more of an advanced version of product stress, fatigue, thermal testing, offering much more than the basic level of simulation tools that you get natively in Inventor. And then there's an app called Inventor Nesting, which automates and greatly increases the efficiency of manufacturing from sheets of raw materials to reduce wastage. And then there's Inventor Tolerance Analysis, which reports the mechanical fit and performance of the design based on tolerance data. All of these things, in my humble opinion, having absolutely no business being separate apps and should just be bundled natively in with Inventor itself. HSM Works, which stands for High Speed Machining for SolidWorks. This is a fork of Inventor CAM, which itself used to be called HSM, but this comes with a Fusion 360 subscription and is a plugin for Fusion 360 users needing CNC capabilities if they also themselves use SolidWorks in-house. Autodesk Insight is a tool that comes as part of the AEC collection in Revit, and it's a utility that allows architects and engineers to better design more energy efficient buildings, which is more important these days than ever before, using data-driven analytics and advanced simulation engines. Autodesk Maya, another Goliath, a behemoth of the film, TV and game studio world. This is another jewel in Autodesk's crown. 3D artists can conjure up lovable cartoon characters and bring them to life. Animators can use the professional rigging tools to craft lifelike animations of models and scenes, resulting resulting in cinematic blockbuster films, TV series and commercials, all benefiting from Maya's extensive flexible toolsets, and films such as The Avengers, the Star Wars Solo movie and Ready Player One being some recent ones of note. And I referenced earlier on the similarities between Fusion 360 and Inventor, which confuse many people. Well, the same goes for 3ds Max and Maya, as both appear to be almost identical on face value. Truth be told though, 3D Studio Max and Maya have completely different origin stories and ended up becoming owned by Autodesk at completely different points. Both can output similar results, but they have very different workflows and learning curves. And ultimately, 3ds Max does have better interoperability with other Autodesk products for interchanging file types and is better overall at the materials and modeling workflow, whereas Maya has got a better, more powerful animation engine, making it better for full-length, more complex sequences, which is why it's ended up being used by every Oscar-winning VFX movie dating back 20-odd years. Autodesk Moldflow is quite frankly a migraine-inducing clusterfuck of a family that I'm sure makes sense to somebody, but when there's so many of the products that your own comparison matrix on the website doesn't even support it, then maybe it's time to give yourself a shake. And when you need this to make sense of them all, mate, come on, man. But the Moldflow products were an acquisition for Autodesk back in 2008 and does complete plastic injection molding simulation and optimization, checks for and helps for resolving warping, temperature issues in the mold, and with how the plastic flows into the mold. Moldflow Communicator is the viewer for Moldflow simulations. It lets third parties, people like on the shop floor or in boardrooms or wherever, ingest the Moldflow result data so they can witness the simulations play out without needing to use expensive Moldflow licenses just for the likes of knowledge transfer and just generally watching the simulations. Motionbuilder is generally added into a 3ds Max or a Maya pipeline to open up real-time character animation and rigging, motion capture and cinematography to enable CGI characters that recreate believable human movement, reproducing this in a human skeleton using simulated points, nodes and joints. Autodesk Mudbox is a digital sculpting and 3D painting and smoothing package originally conceived to create the Gollum character from Lord of the Rings. You basically start off with a lump of mass, and then it allows you to punch and smack and shave and sculpt this into a work of CGI art, with Mudbox for some of us being a bit of a meme, because back around 2010 and 2013-ish, Autodesk, not long after having acquired Mudbox and having absolutely frankly no idea just what the hell to do with it, thought it was an absolute crease to put it into the product design suite. Of all things, telling us all to try and convince salt-of-the-earth fabricators and industrial designers that they should try and use it for conceptually designing industrial machinery with, using a human head, a cow and a T-Rex as a template. Navisworks is project review software primarily for BIM and architectural coordination. It isn't a modeler itself, more of an importer of other file types, combines them all together and allows you to interact and walk through designs more fluidly than you would have otherwise have been able to do in the packages that they were actually created. And it's also got project review and management capabilities, but with the heavy investment that Autodesk are making in their construction cloud services, it kind of remains to be seen whether Navisworks will fit into the stack, with the new kids on the block kind of taking center stage at the moment. Navisworks Freedom is a viewer with a completely unnecessary and unorthodox name, which is used to view Navisworks project scenes, which tend to be quite big and bulky, ladies, in nature. This lets people who don't have a Navisworks license explore and look around the scenes without any degradation and loss in visual quality. Netfabb is a 3D printing or additive manufacturing and simulation solution, but this isn't your average slicer, mate. This is hardcore finite structure control with close ties into Fusion 360, and it also supports metal additive manufacturing. Netfabb gives the engineer intricate control over everything, including the generation of non-uniform lattice structures to reduce part mass and optimize strength, customize toolpath strategies, and can identify potential build failures in simulated additive studies. Autodesk Point Layout is site and surveyor software that allows for the send and retrieval of data back and forth between the CAD software that you're using, such as Revit and AutoCAD, and the physical hardware equipment being used on a construction site. Power Inspect, which has its own client or can be bought as a Fusion 360 companion, is the literal definition of precision. It's used as a software to accompany hardware such as portable measuring arms, which are laser scanners that check things like manufacturing tolerances. The scanners feed back data into Power Inspect to incredible levels of precision to check specifications against the CAD model. And you may have seen them doing this in the Mercedes-AMG F1 factory tour on a front axle part, although Mercedes weren't using Power Inspect in that instance. They were using software called PCDMIS. Power Mill is another tool in Autodesk's seemingly seemingly endless arsenal of machining support software, although PowerMill has many unique specialities, including turbine blade milling, engine port and manifold manufacturing, and path planning strategies for industrial robots. PowerShape is a computer-aided manufacturing modeling companion that supports pretty much every CAD file type in existence. It lets you check imported data over for errors and offers a capable set of manipulation and direct editing modeling tools to repair geometry that you've brought in, ready for the CAM programming in the likes of PowerMill, for example. Pipe is another acquisition into the construction cloud and Autodesk's crusade to own the entire pipeline. Get it? Pipe. It's like Mr. Wolf. It solves problems, mostly in the communication stages between different parties during project closeout and handover, and delivers organized documentation, apparently using automation and artificial intelligence, no less, to achieve this. Recap, or Recap Pro, is Autodesk's heavy-duty point cloud editor software. This will ingest insanely large raw laser scans and then lets you clean them up, trim them, edit them, take measurements, converts the point clouds to 3D mesh data, no less, and then it'll also act as a conduit to push the cloud data into various other Autodesk apps, like pushing factory shop floor laser scans into Autodesk Inventor. Recap Photo, which is a cloud service included with Recap Pro, that'll convert aerial drone photos into 3D model data. I've tried, mate, and I still kind of wrap my head around how they actually do these things. And then there's Revit. Revit is Autodesk's flagship architectural 3D modeler, and it's a significant player in the BIM process. And similar to how all of this played out in other industries, mate, there was a big push around 10 or so years ago. Actually, I was part of this, but in my case, it was for Autodesk Inventor, and it was to get clients off of AutoCAD and transitioned onto the specialized 3D modeler. And those who moved off of AutoCAD and transitioned to Revit and did it right, they would have reaped the rewards by now. But it's got the capability to do detailed construction-ready data and plans from simple residential dwellings all the way through to the likes of sports stadiums and high-rise skyscrapers, mate. But Revit isn't just purely a building modeler. Over the years, there's been multiple attempts by Autodesk at creating Revit spin-offs, such as the likes of Revit MEP, for example. But in the end, Autodesk just saw sense in at least one of their product lines and just merged them all into a single product. But Revit, like most of Autodesk's flagship 3D modeling solutions, is parametric in nature, meaning that designs are intelligent. When you edit something, everything else that's dependent on it should update if you've done it right. It produces detailed drawing documentation, building performance analysis, construction documentation, and much more. But more recently, in 2020, in an open letter to the Autodesk CEO Andrew Anagnost, Revit played centre stage here as high-profile clients such as the likes of the Zaha Hadid architects, along with hundreds of their other architectural clients, voiced their grievances to Autodesk over slow core Revit development and blamed Autodesk for their regressive subscription pricing being to blame for their declining profits within the architectural industry. And this sparked a lengthy response from Autodesk, with Anagnost basically saying, pipe the f*** down, your financials are public, and I can quite clearly see here that our software only accounts actually for about 0.63% of your annual revenue, which happens to actually be far less than what we spend on Amazon Web Services to actually give you this software. I'm not actually taking sides here, this is literally what Eggnog wrote in the letter. Except he didn't say pipe down, but he might as well have. Robot structural analysis, contrary to its name, devastatingly has got absolutely nothing to do with actual robots. It's a professional grade load building structural analysis tool for simulating things like the wind flowing around a building structure and how that will affect the integrity of the building, and how loads and forces are applied when building high-rise multi-storied buildings with multiple floors. Autodesk Screencast is another one I completely forgot about. This is like Autodesk's version of Camtasia, with a back end like YouTube, sort of, but for CAD stuff. So you get a local client, like a screen recorder, and you record your CAD software when you want to help someone and show them something. So you record you doing picks and clicks and how to do CAD stuff. You upload the footage to Screencast's website, and then it shows that person how you do something with like the keystrokes and the mouse buttons and all that sort of stuff on the Screencast website. And that's pretty much the be-all and end-all of Screencast, really. It links in with various Autodesk's domains, like the knowledge network and the forums and that sort of stuff. ShotGrid, which used to be called Shotgun, possibly renamed because the old name, I assume wouldn't have returned favourable search results and maybe got punished by Daddy Google and YouTube, is Autodesk's fully featured Teams-based project and data management platform for the media and entertainment industry. It tracks version history of data and has Gantt chart, project management, task assignment, and can let project managers track everything on production from concept through to delivery. Autodesk Smoke stands alone as a bit of a confusing product to anyone on the outside looking in. It's both a timeline and node-based video effects software for production studios, with it sharing a lot of similarities with the Flame family. But the best way to describe Smoke is that although it isn't cheap, it's a stepping stone into the fully featured Flame product for anyone starting out on a lower budget, and this also is a Linux-only thing and a Mac-only thing as well. Spacemaker was another acquisition which was finalized a couple of months after that open letter landed on Eggnog's desk. Spacemaker is a cloud-based AI-driven real estate design service which provides conceptual site design for city planners. It's especially useful in densely populated areas where space is at a premium, and looking at it, this looks absolutely epic, to be honest. Like, this looks really useful. But what I haven't figured out yet though is why, after dropping $240 million on it, like, how or why Autodesk haven't fully assimilated this into their brand yet after well over 14 months. Like, there's no product page at all on the Autodesk website, and there's 4 references to it across the entire Autodesk domain. They've kept this one well and truly separate. Possibly the seller put that in as a stipulation as part of the sale, perhaps? I don't know. Well, put me in the oven and bake me for 20 minutes, because Autodesk, in a rare blinding flash of common sense, have a product with a name that does exactly what it says in the box: structural bridge design. Mate, it does bridge design for small to medium bridges. Structural engineers can use this for designing bridges based on things like traffic expectations. It'll produce sections, load layouts, calculation reports, and you'll end up with an actual real bridge. This is one of those things, these programs that they refer to when they say that Autodesk are literally shaping the world around you. So remember right back at the very start when I said, ever heard of Autodesk Synthesis? Well, Synthesis is a bit of an internal kind of internship side project thing they've got going on. It's a cross-platform robot simulator that lets teams export robot models from Inventor or Fusion 360 into Synthesis to then strategize, test, and practice the robot's functions using real-time physics, driver training, and apparently it's 100% open source, which is interesting from Autodesk. Autodesk Takeoff is back into the construction cloud family with yet another cloud offering. Takeoff is a 2D and 3D based cost and estimation tool. Users can select areas around plans or models, and providing the metadata is good, it'll quantify and cost up that region for pricing and purchasing, all part of the construction planning stage. Autodesk Tandem, which I totally didn't forget about and had to slice in at the end, is yet another construction service which kind of shows in which basket Autodesk are putting most of their eggs. But Tandem is a service for management and upkeep of digital twins of building projects, and with a digital twin being like a mirrored version of the real life project stored digitally in real time, and apparently lets people spin levitating blocks above their hands, which looks pretty cool. I'd buy it for that part. And Tinkercad is a free online web-based, I guess you could say, entry-level, getting started, dipping your toe into the world of computer-aided design for the likes of kids, educators, and people who just love tinkering, that kind of stuff. It runs entirely in a web browser, and it's not half bad, right? For a no-commitment, I don't want to call it the easily offended would be if I said it was a toy, but but you can even throw your creations into the world of augmented reality, which, mate, that's not half bad for what this is. Upchain is one of Autodesk's most recent high-profile acquisitions. This is cloud-based product data management or product lifecycle management, or PDM and PLM. It integrates with multiple different CAD software vendors via plugins and provides project dashboards, file-level revision control, bills and material management, file part numbering, change control with redline markup capabilities, amongst many other things. It's basically like ShotGrid, but for the manufacturing industry. However, at this point, given how many existing matured solutions that Autodesk already have in use by businesses today that do a very similar thing to what Upchain does, but are kind of on-prem, it's both interesting and a little bit concerning whilst waiting to see what Autodesk do with Upchain and how they end up merging it into their existing portfolio. Because conveniently, next is Autodesk Vault, which goes loggerheads in some ways with Upchain. This is almost exactly the same in terms of who it's pitched at, but Vault is the on-premise CAD data management solution from Autodesk. Long story short, Vault allows teams to collaborate on data from a centralized on-premise storage area and provides backup solutions and version control to the data with varying levels of access into that data depending on the permissions given to the user and the license that they're given. So speaking of the licenses, Vault comes in multiple different forms and SKUs. You've got, for example, Vault Office, which is a lightweight, cheap license for non-engineering staff. Vault Basic is what's provided essentially for free inside most of Autodesk's CAD packages. It's just basic on-premise data management. It's got a plugin within the CAD applications which sends data back and forth on a check-in and a check-out basis to the on-premise Vault server. Vault Workgroup is the upgrade path from Vault Basic, which then allows for file-level revision management and change control workflows. Up from that is the old singing and dancing Vault Professional license, which offers itemized bill of material management, better permission control, web access, multi-site replication, and tons more. Then there's Vault PLM, which is a bundle package offering Vault Professional and a license of Autodesk's cloud-based Fusion managed product lifecycle management system. And then there's the Vault Mobile app, which is it's a mobile app which allows for vaulted CAD data to be opened up on your mobile device. Vehicle tracking is basically SimCity or City Skylines on steroids, mate. This accurately analyzes a massive variety of vehicles and aircraft to make sure they can steer and maneuver around airports, junctions, and roundabouts, and it can also do car park design. The Autodesk Viewer is, in a shocking turn of events, a viewer that Autodesk actually kind of got right for a change. It runs in a browser, a web browser. It supports drag and drop of almost any CAD file type, even non-Autodesk stuff, and offers a stunning looking and fluid viewable, which is often better to look at and to run than it is in its native program where it came from. This viewer is being used as the plugin for most of Autodesk's apps now and moving forward that have a need for such a thing, and hopefully this is going to signal an eventual end to design review at some point. I've made no secret of the fact this next one is my favourite Autodesk app of all time. Being a petrol head, it's Autodesk VRED or VRED. This is balls out. How the f*** did someone do that? How is that even real? Visualization and a VR package, but it's so much more than that. VRED or VRED stands for Virtual Reality Editor, and it's used extensively within the automotive industry for sales imagery, presentations, TV commercials, brochure pictures. You can use it for internal design reviews in manufacturing as well. It supports CPU ray tracing, GPU ray tracing. It supports most VR headsets. And VRED comes in a variety of options. I couldn't possibly go over them all, but you've got VRED Design, which is the entry-level version of VRED. Then you've got VRED Professional, which is the all singing, all dancing, rather expensive license of Autodesk VRED. Then you've got VRED Core, which is a license for scaling up render farms. And then there is a license called VRED Presenter, which is essentially for presentation purposes. And it's been responsible for some of the most surreal VR experiences that I've ever had, like when I used to own an M4, for example, before I sold it to try and make a go of this YouTube gig. I used to just texture up and render my own car and walk around it in VR because it was just that much fun to do. But now that I kind of don't have it anymore, I wish I'd just gone and drove it instead, done donuts around the local Tesco car park.
Thanks for watching the video.
Autodesk Within. Remember that from the start is something almost nobody will have heard of. They're an engineering design software and consulting branch of Autodesk based out of London, who operate within the medical discipline and innovate around additive manufacturing technologies using bio-inspired algorithms and artificial intelligence to design and create lightweight components for the likes of implants for the human body. It does this by taking existing components, spreading them out into thousands of cubes or point nodes, and forming a lattice structure from within that they can then use for local control, thicker in some areas and thinner in others, and varying the density. And now finally for some amendments to, let's say, other videos you may have seen who've attempted to do this. Autodesk Sketchbook Pro has not been an Autodesk product since last year, June 2021, and was spun away off into a completely separate independent company, so Sketchbook Pro's got nothing to do with Autodesk anymore. BIM 360 was renamed to Autodesk Build, although there's much confusion to be had in that area. There's a lot of the old websites, all the mobile apps, and there'll be tons of news articles live for a long time to come. And frankly, Autodesk could just utter gash at telling it how it is. Dynamo Studio ended all sales back in June 2021 and will be pulling the product completely from the AEC collection in January 2022, making Dynamo Studio completely end of life. Autodesk Character Generator was shut down and sent to the Autodesk graveyard last year in August 2021. And Inventor is not the AutoCAD for mechanical engineers. I jest. But honestly, mate, that video was a Herculean effort. It was hard enough for me to put this together, never mind having zero knowledge of the product, so max respect to that lad for what he did there. In total, it's taken me around 6 days to put this together, and it's been a long 6 days. A long ass 6 days. But don't forget, if you're planning on buying any Autodesk licenses anytime soon after what you've seen here, just click my link in the description, and at no cost to you, it'll support my channel and help me put together more videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting and learned something at least. Thanks again. Toodles.